Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about a skill that is, honestly, a total game changer for anyone who wants to lead, negotiate, or just connect better with people. We're diving into the art of diplomatic communication.
I mean, really think about that for a second. What if those conversations you dread, the really difficult ones, could be completely transformed into something productive? All by just making a few tiny shifts in how you talk.
Well, that's exactly what we're getting into. This isn't some vague, abstract theory. This is a practical toolkit packed with real techniques you can start using literally the second this explainer is over.
Okay, first up, tool number 1, the language of connection. This is all about the actual words you choose, the building blocks of trust. It's about learning the language that builds bridges with people instead of putting up walls.
Okay, check this out. It's called the pronoun puzzle. On one side, you have, "You didn't submit the report." You can just feel the accusation there, right? It immediately puts someone on the defensive. But what if you just shift it to, "Has the report been submitted?" See? It focuses on the task, not the person. It's such a small change, but the impact is massive.
And this ties right into a critical idea for any leader, the conversational pacing principle. It's so simple, but we get it wrong all the time. You have to connect first, and then you solve. If you just jump straight to fixing the problem without making that human connection, your brilliant solution is probably going to fall flat. Listen first, show you get it, then you can figure out a path forward together.
You know, we all say it, "I understand." But let's be honest, it can feel a little hollow sometimes. To really show someone you're listening, you need to use what's called the concreteness signal. Instead of that generic phrase, you mirror back their reality in specific terms. Try saying, "So what I'm hearing is the deadline pressure is really stressing out the team." Boom! That proves you were actually listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
And here's a little secret weapon for you. Open-ended follow-up questions. They are a diplomatic superpower. Seriously. When you ask something like, "Tell me more about the most challenging part of that," you're signaling genuine interest. You're showing them you are in the conversation with them. It is by far the fastest way to build a real, solid connection.
All right, so we've covered the words themselves. Let's level up. Tool number 2 is all about the strategy of influence. This is the psychology behind building your credibility and persuading others without ever coming across as forceful or pushy. So, let me ask you something. You're in a room, maybe with a bunch of really smart, experienced people. How do you prove you're an expert? What's the best way to do it? I'll bet the answer is the exact opposite of what you're thinking.
By admitting you don't have all the answers. Yep, you heard that right. This is called the competence paradox. Expressing what's called confident humility. Admitting you're not 100% sure about something actually makes you seem more credible, not less. So why on earth does this work? Well, when you say something like, "The data seems to point this way, but we really need to keep an eye on X," you're signaling intellectual honesty. You're showing you respect that things are complex. And you know what that does? It makes everyone in the room lower their defenses and actually open up to your argument.
This brings us to our next big idea, and it's captured perfectly in this little phrase. Ask, don't tell. We tend to think that persuasion is about having the best, most logical argument. But the truth is, when you just tell people what to think, their natural reaction is often to push back.
And this is where another really powerful tool comes into play, the advice-seeking paradox. Get this. When you ask someone for their advice on a complex issue, you're actually flattering their intelligence. And, more importantly, you're making them a partner in the process. The craziest part is, the act of asking makes them see you as more competent. It's an amazing way to build an instant alliance.
Okay, for all the leaders listening, this next one is a huge one. It's called the agency transfer. Instead of giving commands, you ask for opinions. You frame a challenge with, "How do you think we should approach this?" What you're doing is transferring the agency, the power to act, to them. This creates a sense of ownership and unlocks motivation in a way that just giving orders never ever will.
All right, on to our final tool. This section is for the high-stakes moments. These are the specialized techniques you pull out of your toolkit when the pressure is on and the conversation gets really difficult.
Let's talk about saying no. It's one of the hardest things to do diplomatically, isn't it?
A flat, "I won't do it," feels personal, like a rejection of the person. So, instead, use the empowering refusal. You change it to "I can't," and then you cite a genuine external constraint, like a company policy or a prior commitment. This lets you refuse the request without damaging the relationship. So what happens when you get asked a question you can't or shouldn't answer directly? That's when you use artful deflection. It's a simple two-step. First, you briefly acknowledge the question, maybe with something like, "That's a fair question." That makes them feel heard. Then, you pivot by asking a relevant, collaborative question of your own. You protect your position while keeping the conversation productive.
Now this one is really clever. If you need to get to the truth, don't ask, "Is everything okay?" Because the easy, automatic answer is almost always, "Yeah, but it's fine." Instead, you use a negative assumption question, like, "What are the biggest challenges we're facing right now?" By assuming there are problems, you give people permission to be honest and tell you what's really going on.
And finally, always remember the power of the final note. People don't remember entire conversations word for word. They remember how they felt, especially at the very end. So even after a really tough negotiation, make sure your final words are positive, appreciative, or focused on the future. That's the memory that's going to stick.
Okay, so let's zoom out and put it all together. Here is your complete diplomatic toolkit.
So here it is, all in one place. Your toolkit starts with the language of connection. That's your foundation of trust. From there, you use the strategy of influence to persuade effectively. And for those high-stakes moments, you have your specialized techniques for navigating tough conversations. It's a complete system.
And this is probably the most important takeaway of all. Communication diplomacy isn't about being nice. It's not about avoiding conflict. It's a strategic skill set designed to make you more effective, to build real trust, to influence outcomes, and to lead with clarity and impact.
So, I'll leave you with a question. Out of everything we've talked about, the pronoun puzzle, asking for advice, that empowering refusal, which single tool can you put into practice tomorrow? Think about a conversation you have coming up and how just one of these could change the entire outcome.
That's it for this explainer. Now go put that new toolkit to work.